Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunathira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Charja Astatara Sata C. Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Grantharaj Çrémad-Bhägavatam Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gorpemanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. You've already been welcomed at least once, maybe twice, but I'd like to welcome all of you also, especially, those who come from some distant places. More certainly will be coming, but thank you. A festival of hearing and chanting and praying. So we'll chant together this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Paradha Uvacha. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smaranam Pada Sevanam. Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam. Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Iti Pungsarpita Vishnu. Bhakti's chain Navalakshana. Kriyeta Bhagavat Yadha. Tanmanye Dhitam Uttamam. Dravida. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smaranam Pada Sevanam. Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam. Sakyam Atmani Vedanam. Iti Pungsarpita Vishnu. Bhakti's chain Navalakshana. Yeta Bhagavat Yadha. Tanmanye Dhitam Uttamam. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Sevanam. Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam. Sakyam Atmani Vedanam. Iti Pungsarpita Vishnu. Bhakti's chain Navalakshana. Eka Bhagavat Yadha. Tanmanye. Ladies, please. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Sevanam. Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam. Sakyam Atmani Vedanam. Iti Pungsarpita Vishnu. Bhakti's chain Navalakshana. Kriyeta Bhagavat Yadha. Tanmanye Dhitam Uttamam. One more, lady, please. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smaranam Pada Sevanam. Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam. Sakyam Atmani Vedanam. Iti Pungsarpita Vishnu. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming His servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto Him. In other words, serving Him with body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So, the weekend that we're spending together will be aimed at a certain theme, the role of prayer in strengthening, enhancing, and developing our relationship with Krishna, personality of Godhead. And I thought to begin that discussion, this morning's class, just referring to this verse by Prahlad Maharaj, very famous verse, where he's referring to the 9 divisions or processes of bhakti, devotional service, one of them being, in the first half here, vandanam, or prayer. For those not familiar, the scene is a little boy, 5, 6 years old, being asked a question by his father, who's the terror of the universe. He's the original terrorist. He's the terrorist of terrorists. He's mean, and he can do anything at any time. And he has, as a son, someone who's the opposite, completely pure, completely free from envy, animosity, maliciousness, etc. Perfectly pure personality. And that became possible because while Prahlad was within the womb of his his mother, when he was in the womb of his mother, the father went to the forest with the aim of undergoing austerities for the purpose of becoming immortal. He was already, he was such a terrorist that he was controlling the universe because he had taken over the heavenly kingdom by military strength. And he was ruling the universe, and he was thinking, wow, if I can just rule the universe forever, I'll be God. Just live forever and continue ruling the universe. So that was his ambition. He wasn't a small-timer. So he wanted to become eternal. He was off in the forest, undergoing extremely severe austerities for a long, long time. So while that was going on, demigods saw the opportunity. Let's go try to get our kingdom back because this chief terrorist is not in the seat, the ruling position. He's off in the forest. So they came with their military and they regained control of the heavenly realm. And when they saw the pregnant wife of Hiranyakashipu, Kayadu, they immediately could understand, here's Hiranyakashipu Jr. So they were ready to take her into custody and wait till the child was born and finish Hiranyakashipu Jr. But Narada Muni, great saintly person, by his uncanny ability to know where to be at the right time, at the right place, and do the right thing, and say the right thing, and do everything perfectly, he showed up, just like that, and said, no. Within the womb of Kayadu is a pure soul. Entrust his wife to me, and I'll see that the child is taken care of nicely. So the wife, Kayadu, was happy to be protected by Narada Muni. She asked him for a benediction. The benediction she asked was, while my husband is away in the forest, please give me the benediction that I may not give birth to this child, but not until he returns, then I can give birth to my child. So Narada Muni granted her that benediction. And Narada was instructing her in the knowledge of Çrémad-Bhägavatam, knowing that within her womb was a small child, not yet born, but by spiritual sound vibration he would be benefited. And through that sound vibration, the child became a perfect devotee. And unlike most children, unlike any other child that I ever heard of, he remembered everything that he heard within the womb of his mother. Do you know anybody else that has done like that? I don't. So he was endowed with some special abilities. And when he was born, when his father came back from the forest, thinking, I'm God. I'm immortal. Well, not exactly immortal, but I can't be killed this way, that way, the other way, in so many ways. So I'm checkmated. I'm all set, immortal. Then the child was born, and when the child was of school age, the child was enrolled in a Asura-kula, a school for asuras. And the teachers were teaching asuric. Asuric means non-godly or atheistic principles of life, so they could become big asuras when they grew up. Prahlad wasn't interested in any of that. He was only interested in one thing, topics in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the goal of life. So one day, his father, Hiranyakashipu, took some time out of his, busy life of ruling the universe and invited his son to come see him. And he put his child on his lap like an affectionate father might do and asked his son, "Please tell me, what is the best thing that you've learned in school?" And this was his answer. Essentially, "I haven't learned anything good in school, Dad. It's all useless. But one thing I can say that's very useful. This is very useful. Knowledge," because that's how the verse ends, "one who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge." Not the useless kind, the complete kind, perfect knowledge. That's the best knowledge, perfect, complete knowledge. It's by these methods. So one of the methods in the list of 9 is vandanam. Vandana means prayer. So that's our topic. How does prayer fit into the life of those who are striving for restoring their forgotten relationship with God? Forgotten because all living entities eternally we're spirit soul. That's the teaching of transcendental knowledge. Bhagavad Gita and Çrémad-Bhägavatam and all transcendental literatures describe the real self is an eternal soul. And as eternal soul, we have an eternal relationship with the Supreme Soul, the source of emanation, our source of emanation, the source of emanation of everything. Because like sparks are unto a fire, we are like unto the Supreme. We're tiny, spark-like, conscious beings that are in an eternal relationship with the Supreme Being, Supreme Person. But we've forgotten. And in that forgetful state, we're very busy in material activity, fruitive activity, karma, building our kingdom, our little, Rabindra Swarup calls it our God project. Each of us. Some supposed reality that says, I'm the enjoyer of all I survey. Or at least working on it. Or at least some part of what I survey. That's my kingdom. There's a family I visit somewhere in the United States. The father has a nice property, and from time to time he goes for a walk around the property, and he's surveying his kingdom. I mean, the mindset is very clear. And then he does this, puts in some landscaping and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And his life is his kingdom. That's his fortress or his palace. And there's his subjects, called his family. And, nice big fence around the house. And anyway, so it may be more formal, maybe less formal, but that's the way of material life. We're trying to be the Ishvara, the controller, and the enjoyer, and the proprietor of some piece of God's creation. Although it's His. So we're thieves. We're unrightfully usurping the property of the Supreme. So the process of devotional service is a U-turn. It's re-establishing that relationship with the one who everything belongs to, including ourselves, the spirit soul. So we have this eternal relationship that's forgotten, covered by Maya. And the process of devotional service is to restore the original consciousness of the soul, which means, in its complete stage, not just understanding we're little spiritual sparks, not the covering, called this body, gross and subtle bodies. Subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego, the one that we don't see but rules things a lot. Like, what we feel, what we do, based upon what's going on with the subtle body. But that's also not the self. The self is the soul, the animating feature, the source of consciousness within. That's our Vedic teaching. And that soul, in its complete stage, exactly as this verse is saying, is one of complete knowledge. And complete knowledge includes the source of knowledge of the source of everything, and our relationship with that source of everything. And that's possible through the medium of serving in love. That's the medium. Through that medium, one can then understand the source of all things. And our relationship with that source of all things in a very individual, unique, person-specific, soul-specific, spark unto fire-specific relationship. And that's wonderful. It's good news. We're persons. And God is a person. And we have a personal relationship in love. Through that medium of loving service, then, all things can be properly understood in context with the source of emanation. That's the complete knowledge that Prahlad is saying comes from these 9 processes. So one point that I want to emphasize is prayer, according to this teaching of Prahlad and our Vaishnava way of life, it flows from, or it follows behind, sequentially, the initial process of devotional service, hearing and chanting. So hearing and chanting, here's a visual image, something like a needle that has a point and a shaft, and behind the needle there's a little hole or an eye of the needle, and there's some thread called our life. So the initial, what goes into, the needle goes into, it's the protruding part is the point, like hearing and chanting. And then following behind the hearing and chanting comes the shaft of the needle, or these other 7 processes. So for us, primary attention goes to hearing and chanting. And following behind hearing and chanting comes effective, all of the other 7, remembering, praying, worshipping the lotus feet, deity worship, befriending the Supreme Lord, serving the Supreme Lord, surrendering everything to the Supreme Lord. Just a little application anecdote here. When I was in college, one of the ways that I was trying to find who am I, what's the purpose of life, what's going on, those kind of questions. I thought, it's not out there, I'm going to find it in here. That was step one. Then step two, how do I find out what's in here? So one way perhaps is through the medium of creativity. Through creativity process, maybe I can find out what's in here. It might come out. That was my idea. So then I thought, okay, let me write fiction, poetry, creative expression. And, to do that, you have to go inside and to say something of meaning, supposedly. So I was practicing. And I had a professor, an English professor, who was also a poet, and we had developed a relationship outside of the classroom. And he would share with me his poetry, and it was a very nice exchange. He was a Taoist. I didn't know what Taoism was at the time, and I learned from him what Taoism is. And so many things, nice. So I got into the practice of writing poetry. And then, I was thinking, it wasn't like I'm a poet, it was a means of excavating what's inside and let it come out. That was the intention. And fast forward over a period of time, through association of devotees, I found myself visiting a Hare Krishna temple. I wasn't committed, I was just going to spend some time at a Hare Krishna temple. And I was, it was fantastic, it was nice. And I was writing poetry. And one devotee, nice devotee, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, what's happening? I'm writing poetry. And, let me take a look and share it with you, okay?" And he said, "Let me give you some advice." Everyone likes to give advice to a new person. Just be a new person for a while. You get lots of advice. So the advice was, writing poetry is fantastic, but do the Shravanam Kirtanam part first. Like, hear from the perfected souls. Read the poetry of the perfected souls, because they've gone really deep. I mean, deep, deep. And learn from them the art of going deep and the art of expressing that which is from that deep place. And then write poetry. It sounded really reasonable. Really reasonable. And then when I became a little more familiar with the teachings of bhakti, it clicked. Shravanam Kirtanam comes first. Not by accident, that's the way it is. Because some people can write poetry or some people can pray. And it's not, it doesn't have the same value. It can have some value, or at least apparent value. Trying to get in touch with yourself kind of language. So, or trying to get in touch with God, but through prayer, or through personal expression of communion with God through prayer. In the world in the spiritual marketplace, in the ways of approaching God in the world, prayer is very common, like super common, more common than chanting God's name. Although in one prominent religion, in Christianity, the teaching is, "Hallowed be thy name, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I was listening to Prabhupada having in a room conversation with a number of theologians from different denominations, apparently, in Geneva, and Prabhupada was, it went around like 10 times. Do you believe in God? Yes. You identify yourself as a Christian? Yes. Christ's teaching teaches to praise God's name. Is it true? Yes. Do you have a name of God that you praise? And then, you got like a mush kind of an answer. Like, it wasn't a no, it wasn't a yes, it was a mush. So then Prabhupada said, being Christian means follow the teachings of Christ, isn't it? Yes. So take a name of God that you like. And if you don't have a name of God, I'll give you one, Krishna. So please take it. And then you got mush. So he did it 10 times. He was just appealing to them to follow the teachings that they've received and take some name of God. He suggested some other names. If you don't like that one, here's some other ones. But here's a name. And, be a Christian. Do what God says. Praise His name. Sing His name. So praying is more popular than chanting. And in part because, anyway, you know the reason why. There's an aversity to submission and also the sources from which one is hearing. And even if one is hearing, here's a source that I'm hearing from, and it says praise and sing and hallow God's name, and my answer is mush. So it's not submission. Anyway, so prayer, my point is, prayer should follow the hearing and chanting process. The communing with God is best, most effective, followed by hearing and chanting. Certainly one can pray if one hasn't properly heard or chanted. One can pray. Prabhupada would sometimes describe even the atheist in the battlefield. He sees great danger and he prays to God spontaneously. When the war is over, he's not continuing to pray, but in that danger and difficulty, it's very natural to pray to God. So prayer is a form of communion or communication. Like in the I learned this over a period of time, that in the Indian court system, maybe the same in the British court system, when you place, so an aggrieved party places some request before the court, and the term that they use is prayer to the court. Are you familiar with this in India or England? It's called a prayer. There's the judge, and I'm in this, I'm suffering some injustice. I want some relief. There's something oppressive that's happening. So a prayer to the court. Please give relief. And the exact language is used. A prayer for relief. And the source of that is, at least from our Vedic perspective, the source of that is there's God, and then there's the king, who's would be, ideally is the representative of God. And the king would be the one who one would place the prayer before, because he was everything. They didn't have different branches of government. He was the judge. He was the guy. And he would have representatives who would serve that function also. They weren't in charge of the military, but they were magistrates, like Chankazi, a magistrate in behalf of the king. Or when Haridas Thakur was speaking to the Kazi in Pulia, he said, you're the representative of God. So it's your duty and it's your right. If I've done something wrong, you punish me, and my duty is to accept it. So if you think I've done something wrong, punish me in a fit way. But let me ask you this question. If one who is Hindu becomes Muslim, should he be punished? Whatever is the fit punishment for a Hindu who becomes Muslim, you should punish me in the same way. That's my suggestion. Because it's the other way around. But if it's wrong to go from this ism to that ism, then I'm wrong. It's your decision. Punish me. The Kazi didn't get it. So there are, in the realm of prayer, there are Narottam Das Thakur. I was looking for it and I couldn't find it, but somewhere, maybe Dravida knows. Or I know I received this understanding from Satsrup Maharaj for some period of time. He was very involved in prayer, and there's a list. I was also, when studying Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings, came across this list there were 10 different categories of prayer. If anybody knows what that list is, I'd like to have that list. But commonly, there's two very prominent categories: prayers of glorification and prayers of request. And within the Bhagavatam, prayers generally, almost always. I was planning one time to do a seminar on prayers from the Bhagavatam. It sounded like that would be a really nice topic. And this was we were having at the time 1-week retreats in Gitanagari. Prayers from the Çrémad-Bhägavatam. So I started the project of getting into the prayers of the Bhagavatam, and it was overwhelming. It was like, drinking water from a faucet or a hose, and it just fills your mouth and is bubbling over. There are 18,000 verses in the Çrémad-Bhägavatam, and prayers make up well over half. I counted them. Huge volumes of prayers. Like sitting at a Sunday feast or something, and there's all this mountains of prasadam. But many of those prayers, those that are sections of prayers, commonly, almost always, they begin with the person who's the subordinate praying to the superior. Commonly it's the personality of Godhead and who's the superior and his devotee, but not always. Glorifying. Like in the prayers of Gajendra. He was in a very difficult position. So he was in the life of an elephant. Previously he was a great king and was cursed to become an elephant, so he became an elephant. And this crocodile was on his leg. He was bathing in the lake. And the crocodile wouldn't let go. And he was fighting with all of his strength, and the crocodile wouldn't let go. And it was going on for years, 100 years. That's a long time to have a fight for life. And he was getting weakened, where the crocodile was still chomping on his leg. He was in his medium in the lake. So he was a goner. And in that position of, going, his mind, although he was in an elephant body, elephants also have minds, his mind went to that place of shelter from his previous life as a king, where he was practiced to chant standard prayers, stotras they're called, standard prayers, like Govinda Stotra, the prayers from the Bhagavatam. And he started saying those prayers just spontaneously, because he was accessing something that was stored in his memory bank from a previous life. So Prabhupada writes that all of us, so this is a message, all of us should recite standard prayers. And Dravida Prabhu is going to lead us in some of those standard prayers. We'll have lots of standard prayers. And we shouldn't do those not in a routine fashion, although even if you do in a routine fashion, it stays with you. It may stay with you for your next lifetime. Better you complete your business and don't have another lifetime. But nonetheless, chant standard prayers. And it's very powerful. It will help you in your spiritual life to connect with the Supreme. And then there's individual prayers, and they're also very nice. Each of us may, in a regulated fashion, or in moments of difficulty, or some third or fourth options, we may offer some prayers to the personality of Godhead, and those are commonly, in addition to glorification, some request. So a request can be a request for protection. I'm going to read to you, time permitting, Akrura's prayers, because we know from our scriptures that in these 9 processes, Akrura is the example of one who achieved perfection through prayer. So, long prayers, ending with a request for protection. Glorification, glorification, request for protection. Or request for purity, or pure devotional service, or removal from one's heart of impurities. Here's a very beautiful prayer, amongst many beautiful prayers, this one by Prahlad, again, from 5th Canto, Chapter 18. I can just push the Dravida button and he'll recite it for you, but I'm just going to read it's a long one. But there's 2 of them. I'm just going to read one of them. I offer it's Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya is how it starts. Namas Tejas Tejas Avir Avir Bhava. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. So there's a glorification. The source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts. Sounds fearful, but not for Prahlad. Kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Glorification, request, pure heart. Use your thunderbolt-like claws and sharp teeth and take all that dirty stuff, contamination, impurity from my heart. We may pray like that and then start protesting when it happens. Wait a minute. I didn't mean that one. That's my favorite one. So, prayer for purity, or prayer for protection, prayer for mercy. Sometimes, a little bit down, a prayer for attaining something. I want something, fill in the blank. So prayer sometimes has that component, not so much on the spiritual, but on the material side. I want to read quickly. The beginning part of Akrura's prayers, referencing this Vandanam, and Akrura achieved perfection through prayer. So the primary prayers, there's a whole chapter, the prayers of Akrura. But before that, we'll make reference to Akrura is being sent by Kamsa to go from Mathura to Vrindavan and bring Krishna back to Mathura. And he's riding in this really fabulous chariot, golden chariot with new horses and, very nice chariot. But he's not thinking of the nice chariot, he's thinking of being with Krishna. And as he's riding in his chariot, he's thinking in his mind, anticipating what good fortune it is, the perfection of life. I'm going to see Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And he's in his mind considering what he will do, what he will say, what the experience will be like. He's so absorbed, in effect, in a spontaneous way, offering words of praise and of prayer in his mind to the personality of Godhead. It took him all day long. And those of you that know the terrain, to go from Mathura to Vrindavan, even in a tanga, because you can go to the train station in Mathura and take a tanga, a horse and buggy, or a little cart. And I did it once. And it takes about an hour and a half. It took Akrura all day. And the reason was he was just going all over the place. He was so absorbed in meeting Krishna that was his world. And anyway, he reached at he left in the sunrise and he reached there at sunset. He was absorbed in the mood of receiving or meeting Krishna and offering words of praise and appreciation of Krishna. And of course, when he saw in the soft sand of Vrindavan, the footprints of Krishna, before he even saw Krishna, he saw his footprints, he lost it. He fell out of his chariot, started rolling around in the dust of Krishna's lotus feet. And then when he saw Krishna, he just threw himself at Krishna's feet. He's his uncle. And Krishna's wanting to see him like his father, a kind of affection. But Akrura sees him as the personality of Godhead. And then when it's there, the next set of prayers is when they're leaving Vrindavan, heading for Mathura. Just make it really quick because of time. He sees Krishna on his way to Mathura wants to take his sacred bath in the river Jamuna before entering into Mathura. Akrura, please stop the chariot. He stops the chariot. Krishna and Balaram take their bath in the river Jamuna. And they become again seated in the chariot, and Akrura asks Krishna for permission. May I go take my bath now also? Yes, go take your bath. So he climbs down the bank of the river and goes to the river, and even before he gets in the river, he sees Krishna and Balaram in the river. He goes up the river bank and sees them seated in the chariot. What's going on? Was that a vision? Was it I just imagining things? So he went back to the river. And instead of seeing Krishna and Balaram in the river, he saw the spiritual world in the river. He saw Lord Vishnu, the Lord of the universe, reclining on an Anantashesh, surrounded by the very detailed description of the host of exalted personalities that were there offering prayers in praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the detail is described, and he was overwhelmed. And when he went back to the chariot, and he saw Krishna and Balaram in the chariot, just as before, although they were in the river. So then he began by offering the following beautiful prayers. And it's indicating Akrura's heart, meaning each devotee, each tiny jiva soul has a particular relationship with the Supreme Lord, and he's offering prayers according to that relationship. It's only natural. That prayer that I read by Prahlad Maharaj, it's prayers by the residents of Jambudweep. And you listen to it very carefully, and each one of the persons speaking is speaking according to their realization. Like another example of prayer is when Lord Nrsingadev appears, and he finishes off Hiranyakashipu and all of his buddies. And then the demigods want to appease him. Read carefully. Each of the demigods speaks something different according to their position. Naturally, they have a realization of who is the Supreme Lord according to their position. So each person's prayers may be different, but the object is, when it's proper prayer, it's the Supreme. So here's Akrura's prayer. He sees Krishna on the chariot as the Lord of Vaikuntha, because that's what he just saw. So here's what he says. Sri Akrura said, this is chapter 40, canto 10, I bow down to you, the cause of all causes, the original and inexhaustible Supreme Person, Narayana, the Lord of Vaikuntha. From the whirl of the lotus born from your navel, Brahma appeared, and by his agency, this universe has come into being. So he's Narayana, and Narayana expands in the Vishnu forms, and Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So Narayana is the same as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who is the father of Lord Brahma, who then similarly empowers Lord Brahma to build the universe. And he goes on. He's detailing the process of creation. All of the energies that make up creation come from you. You're the energetic. You're the absolute truth, the source of everything. All these, he lists them, the causes of creation, the elements within creation. All these causes of the cosmic manifestation are born from your transcendental body. The total material nature and these other elements of creation certainly cannot know you as you are, for they are manifested in the realm of dull matter. Since you are beyond the modes of nature, even Lord Brahma, who is bound up in these modes, does not know your true identity. And he goes on, and at the end, final verse, O son of Vasudeva, obeisances to you, within whom all living beings reside, O Lord of the mind and senses, again, I offer you my obeisances. O Master, please protect me, who am surrendered unto you. So, one other little set of verses. This is Lord Brahma, who, similar to Akrura, he had a vision, or the Lord showed, before even there was creation, the Lord showed his form after the tapa, the purification that Brahma had undergone. The Lord showed him the spiritual world right before him. And the details are described, what Brahma saw. And it's fantastic. It's fully spiritual. And Brahma, understanding the mercy of the Supreme Lord, comes before him. And to honor him, the Lord stands. He's in the midst of all his eternal Shaktis, and energies and potencies, and he stands to receive Lord Brahma. And because their relationship is a relationship of friendship, or Sakya Rasa, he extends his hand and shakes his hand. Pretty cool, huh? How's it going, Lord Brahma? Nice to see you. He doesn't say that. He says, he offers his appreciation of Lord Brahma's position. And then Lord Brahma says his prayer. O personality of Godhead, you are situated in every living entity's heart as the supreme director, and therefore you are aware of all endeavors by your superior intelligence without any hindrance whatsoever. In spite of that, my Lord, I am praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. In other words, you already know what my desire is, so I don't have to say it. But here we are, so I'm going to say it. Please fulfill my desire. May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. Like whiplash. What happened? There's your form is all spiritual, and then there's this event called creation. That's material that comes from you. So you assume this material form, although you have no material form. Could you explain? I pray to you. Please give me the intelligence to understand this. This is even before the creation, because it's an appropriate prayer. It's not just like a trivia question. It's very practical, because he's going to have to create the universe. So what's the relationship between my service, creating the universe, and you, who's the source of universe, and you're all spiritual? So, in the course of our time together, we're going to hear a lot more about prayer and the role of prayer in reestablishing our relationship with the personality of Godhead and progressively achieving the goal of life, pure devotional service through the medium of prayer, following behind our primary activity of hearing and chanting. Hare Krishna. So, any comments or questions? Yes. You've got something, or you're pointing to someone?
I do, but I think Charan will raise his hand first.
Okay, whatever you like.
I'll go with my story.
Okay, go.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your presentation. You touched upon this when you were speaking about the demigods who were praying when Lord Nrsingadeva appeared, which is that conception is very important in prayer. You're also sharing how it's important to read the prayers of the previous Mahajans. So my question is that we're not carrying the conception in our heart that they're praying with. We know it on an intellectual level. I'm a servant, Krishna is God. But we don't have that same conception in our hearts. So when we read their prayers, how do we make it an effective practice when we're not carrying those conceptions?
Supposing you're an airplane pilot. I don't know how the technology works, but supposing you're an airplane pilot and it's dark and it's stormy, and you know over there somewhere there's a landing field. From the landing field, they're sending some signals, and it comes on your, receiver that there's some signals. So even you can't see, your altitude, and you know where the field is. It's not over there, it's over there. So by following the signal, you can land safely. I don't know how the technology works, but it's something like that. So similarly, here are these great souls. So two things, minimally. They're connecting with the Supreme. And the second is, they're doing that in their way. because of their particular unique relationship. So I'm over here. I'm not a great soul. I'm in awe of the great souls. That's not me. So I'm appreciating, this is how this one, this is how that one, here's how the other one. I'm getting a sense of not only the information content, but the relationship that these great souls have with the Supreme. And the second part is it's very variegated. But they've got their Krishna channel on, not off or not guessing. It's on. And it's very diverse. So that gives me a picture of the process and the uniqueness of each person and appreciation of this person, that person, the other person, that helps inspire me to approach the platform of being connected to Krishna, turning on the Krishna channel and, being connected. So instead of just piloting the plane saying, gee, I hope I find the airport, the landing strip, there's the signal that helps me find the landing strip. And I still have to fly the plane, but I'm getting this assist from the control tower over there that's telling me how to reach the destination. The great souls are, and their prayers provide us that light in the darkness, or the guidance of how to. We're still who we are, and they're still who they are. We're still individuals, but to reach the ultimate destination. It's a lot. A lot of guidance is required to help one get to that real position. Because otherwise, if I don't have that, the great souls and their connection with the Supreme, it's, wishful thinking. Close my eyes and hope for the best to reach God. It's, that's nice. That sincere desire is a sincere desire. It's good. And God will give guidance, and this is one of those ways that He gives guidance from those who are connected. Let me accept that. It's not me, it's them. But it's a guiding indicator. And I'm emphasizing also, there's diversity, because that's reality. In the spiritual world, there's diversity. In the platform of perfection, it's not homogenized. There's individuality and uniqueness. That's nice. So I can appreciate not only the fact that there's diversity, but here's some of the diversity. There's this one, and there's that one, and wow, and whew, how nice. So, not just, I wonder what my relationship is like. That's not speculation. That's not the encouragement. The encouragement is to follow the path of those perfected souls. And they give the means how to go there. Appropriate ways to appreciate the Supreme Lord. Like that. Someone else? Okay, Dravida, Prabhu. There's the microphone.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your discourse.
Just an introduction. Get the ball rolling.
Apropos of the question, Hare Krishna. Oftentimes we find, because I was also studying so many prayers over the years, that the great souls, they take the position, or seem to take the position, of conditioned souls. For instance, this Akrura's prayers, which they very much attracted me long ago, and I memorized this very section you were reading. He has this prayer here. I'm just reading it. Which one of us cannot relate to this prayer? My intelligence is so crippled that I cannot find the strength to curb my mind, which is disturbed by material desires and activities and constantly dragged here and there by my obstinate senses. I related to that. Can anyone relate to that? This is Akrura, the acharya for prayer, and he's taking the role of a conditioned soul here. And then, then he continues by saying, but even though that's the case, I'm falling at your lotus feet. Because even though it's impossible for someone who's contaminated me to get your lotus feet, by your mercy it's possible. This is exactly the mood that we want. Oh, you're so merciful. And he goes on, and then the ones you just read at the very end there, the last one, and there's two at the end where he prays for protection. So we find that in the prayers of Prahlad, we find it in the songs of Bhakti Vinod.
Everywhere.
So, isn't it? Even Lord
Everywhere.
Chaitanya, he's praying. Nadanam. So this is one of the ways that the acharyas show their mercy is by giving us models by which we can say, yeah, I can relate to that. And if you actually utter the prayer in that mood, then you can go on, and it's very salutary. This is one way that I would answer that question.
Well, let's go a little bit further with that one. Question. Are they, for educational purposes, example-setting purposes, speaking like that, and it's not really what they're feeling? Or is it part of the quality of one who's so advanced, they're genuinely feeling those things that they're expressing? And that's their qualification to be genuinely advanced and very pure.
I think it can be a little of both. Like I'm thinking of Prahlad. He has a prayer where he says, oh, my senses are going in all directions. I'm attached to the famous cinema songs, right in the Bhagavatam. My ears are cinema songs, my tongue is going here and there, I mean, the mood may be there, but I think we shouldn't think, oh, that's just actually how he's, Prahlad is, this is what's happening with Prahlad. But you're right, of course, they're taking that humble position and in showing us how, in desperation, one should call out to the Lord at every moment. Even Prabhupada said, I'm always chanting, praying, I won't fall into Maya. Right? He said like that. So that is the quality of the grace.
Well, on the other hand, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, speaking of himself in such a berating way that I am totally unqualified, not like I have no qualification. I'm unqualified, lower than Jagai and Madhai, lower than a worm in stool. That's pretty low. And he's feeling that. I've heard Prabhupada describe that's his feeling. It's his Vaishnava humility. And praying for mercy. So just embellish that a little bit more. I'll share this specifically with you, but with others also, that the first visit to Puri that I conducted, where I took a group of devotees, I spent 10 days in advance of the pilgrimage to just go deeply into Lord Chaitanya and his associates in Puri. And then we conducted the yatra with all the devotees, and it was, this saying it again and saying it again and saying it again. And it was a very profound feeling afterwards that there's two very prominent moods in Lord Chaitanya and his associates in this very exalted state of Krishna consciousness that was manifested in Puri. And those two are unbridled eagerness to meet the Lord and humility that's so humbling. It's unbearable, the humility of the residents of Puri, how they were feeling, without all the names, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Haridas Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit and all the devotees, King Prataparudra, completely humble and eager. So it's almost like, go and stop. And, one will tumble around, and what do I do? Go and stop. But it's not go and stop, it's a qualification. The eagerness is strengthened by that feeling of humility, and the feeling of humility is a springboard for intensification of eagerness. So, my sense, at least, is it's something that an advanced soul feels. The particular expression of what they're saying, like Prahlad, like my mind is running all over the place and my senses are, hankering for enjoyment.
Do we think that's actually happening?
Huh?
Is that the way we should think, that his mind is actually all over the place?
Well, that's kind of exceptional.
That's the mood is there, but do we think that Krishna's kaviraj is as low as the women's stool?
No, we don't think that he is like that, but my understanding from hearing Prabhupada describe that section, he's feeling that.
Yes, the feeling is there, but the description they're giving is...
Yes, he's not fallen. Yeah. He's feeling fallen, and in different ways that the expressions of humility come out. Perhaps one could say, just like, turning the topic a little bit, but the first set of the Sharanagati songs, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is berating himself for being, such a fallen person, that's easier for me to say. It's instructional in comparison or in contrast with Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami speaking. But, why should I make that discrimination? Great souls are feeling complete humility. They're feeling it, although they're not fallen like the expressions of that humility. Anyone else? Okay. Here comes the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I understood something from the class that when we, let us say I pray.
When
I pray, I say, please purify me. And then when the purification is actually happening, then we say, no. I have one scenario, I have a question on it.
Keep going.
The scenario is, like I pray to Krishna, Krishna, please purify me. Please remove all impurities.
Got it.
And then I have a very difficult situation that I face that is painful to go through. Perhaps there is a possibility that is one form of purification Krishna is giving. So I should not be ideally, because our goal is to go back to Krishna, I should not be praying to remove the difficulty situation, but it's also painful to deal with it. So how do we pray? Is there a possibility we can pray for the difficult situation, but still we need to get purified? That is the main goal.
I'm not sure I got the whole thing. Did you get the whole thing?
This question, Maharaj, is that we pray for purification. Purification becomes painful. We can't pray to have the situation removed. That's not purified.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
What do we do? Accept it. Thank Krishna. Krishna, you're so kind. I'll say the same thing in a different way. You've heard me say this before. When we surrender to Krishna, one of the things that we need to do is accept the surrender is on Krishna's terms, not mine. You've heard me say that before. So we have an expectation. Purification is going to be like this, and it's going to feel like that, and it's going to happen this way, that way. Or at least, not over there. Maybe not exactly this way, that way, but not over there. And when it's going over there, we protest because we want to be the controller. Or, it's got to be, I have my expectation. So a nice lesson is when we surrender to Krishna, it's on His terms. And when He purifies us, He knows better how to purify us than we know how to purify us. So let go and accept Krishna's purification. This is the say yes to Krishna message. We may want to edit the whole thing. Take the script out and, edit and give it back to Krishna. Do it like this, please. But let go. Krishna knows best. And Krishna is very kind. And that's the mood to adopt. Someone else. Jai Jagannath, you usually have something.
I had a question. I was wanting to share maybe a statement from Çrémad-Bhägavatam 7.5.23.
Go for it.
In terms of the discussion that
Go.
And so it's a description of prema in the prema chapter, Çrémad-Bhägavatam 7.5.
Okay.
And then there's a description of dainya, and how dainya is the essential quality of
Dainya
prema.
means humility, by the way. Okay.
So Sanatana Goswami defines it here like this. He says
Slowly, clearly.
two things that are very difficult for me.
That's why I said it.
Wise men define dainya as a state in which one always thinks oneself exceptionally incapable and low, even when endowed with all excellences. And then it talks about how a sadhaka should cultivate this quality because it's essential to the evolvement of prema. Sanatana Goswami continues, an intelligent person should carefully cultivate speech, behavior, and thinking that fix him in utter humility, and anything that stands in the way of it he should avoid. Dainya, at its most exalted, comes forth when prema, pure love of God, reaches full maturity, as it did in the women of Gokula when they were separated from Krishna. When dainya fully matures, prema unfolds without limit. And so we see dainya and prema acting in a relationship in which each is both cause and effect.
Each.
There might be
Just what's the last part? Each are both the cause and effect?
Effect of each other.
That's nice.
So this impacted me. I read it 2 years ago, and I always stuck in my mind in terms of the discussion. So although they're exceptionally qualified, they're actually feeling themselves to be exceptionally low as a quality of their prema, as an expression of their pure love for Krishna.
Okay. Deveri, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, the dainya. Oh, excuse me. As he said, dainya is more than just humility. It's his feeling of oneself as wretched and neglected, and it's impossible that I can reach you. But even in that neglected wretched, still you call out by like the passage that comes to mind. Lord Chaitanya in the second chapter of Madhya Lila, where he's saying, I'm maintaining my fly-like life. If I really had any love for Krishna, I couldn't maintain this body at all. I'm just faking it. This is Lord Chaitanya speaking in the highest ecstasy of prema bhakti.
Yes.
That's the dainya mood. And this verse of Madhavendra Puri's, Aidina Dayadana Dina, is one who is full of dainya. Aidina Dayadanata. Hey, this is spoken originally by Radharani herself. Krishna's in Mathura. You are Dina Dayadra. Your heart is overflowing. You're melting with mercy, and I am. You are the most merciful to the neglected, like myself. So she's praying. When will I see you again? Since I haven't seen you, I know what I'm going to do. What can I do now? This is a calling out like that. That's the verse Madhavendra Puri chanted when he left his body. So that, yes, we see that in the prayers that we've been discussing, but mostly in the gopis' feelings when Krishna left, and also in the songs of separation, the highest ecstasy. So that we can just kind of stand in awe at these kind of prayers, because it's a prayer. These are all within the realm of prayer. Intense desire generated by this highest intensity of love in separation is really the ultimate jewel that we're looking at, worshiping.
Okay. I'm going to end. Anything from ladies' side? Yes, Mataji.
Which Mataji?
You're right there, right in front of you. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I personally feel that for praying effectively, one should feel the sense of helplessness. So, considering so many comforts in the material world, like personally, I don't feel that kind of situation that
You don't feel like you what?
I'm helpless. So,
Helpless. You don't feel helpless.
So how to cultivate that attitude that Krishna is the exclusive shelter and I'm completely helpless?
Fantastic question. I'll offer 2 suggestions. Read the prayers of those who feel helpless. And like this, the plane looking for the landing field. So from those that have that quality, hear with feeling what their feelings are. Get a sense of, where the landing field is, what that mood is. Although they're very qualified. We're not qualified and we're not feeling helpless. We're fools. So they're qualified and they're feeling helpless. So what's that like? So by association with those persons, that quality becomes part of your quality. And then there's another option. It's not a preferred option. Just keep going. Just continue being a fool. And, doing your chanting and doing your devotional service. And Krishna may show his special mercy and just slam you. And then you'll feel helpless. And then you'll know what that feeling is. But that's, don't make Krishna go through that. What to speak of yourself. Follow the great souls and hear from the great souls. And these prayers recorded are wonderful. In that way, you would develop a quality like their quality. Okay? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki